Adipatseyo, Adipatipatseyo, Anantarapatseyo, Samanantarapatseyo, Nimanyapatseyo, Nisayapatseyo, Nisayapatseyo, Purejatapatseyo, Pachajatapatseyo, Asevanpatseyo, Kammapatseyo, Upakapatseyo, Dhanapatseyo, Maggapatseyo, Sampayuktapatseyo, Vipayuktapatseyo. It's studied up to Upayuktapatseyo. Then the other four are remaining. Attipatseyo, Nattipatseyo, Vigatapatseyo and Avigatapatseyo. So now this Atti means presence. So there are phenomena, dhammas, which affect others because of their presence. Now you can see that all that we studied till now, they all influence each other. Most of them either influence each other by presence or some influence because of absence, because they are not there. So that is what is meant by. So you will find many of the things which you already studied, they come back again. So you can see the relations getting related, themselves being related to each other. So Attipatyo means it's the causally relates. It's not causally, sorry, spelling is wrong. It should be causally. Causally relates itself to its effect by being present in three phases of time, that is during arising and during passing away and during sustenance. So there is some temporary overlap during which it supports the conditioned state. And then these are again of 5 different types. Sahajata Pachya, which we already studied, arising together, Purejat, arising before, Pachajat, arising later, Ahara, arising as a nutriment, Indriya, arising as a faculty. And as I have been telling you, Lady Sayadaw is seen to be the authority in Abhidhamma, so he adds 2 more on his. He says Aramman Purejat and Aramman Vattu Purejat, which is actually a finer distinction of Purejat. Aramman Purejat means born earlier but as an object, and second is Aramman Vattu Purejat, born as a sense base, as a base. So what is the recitation in the Patthana is this. Chattaro Khanda Arupino Anyamanning Attipachena Pacheyo, 91st line. Chattaro Mahabhuta Anyamanning Attipachena Pacheyo. So Chattaro Khanda and Arupino means non-material khandas which are there, the 4 khandas. They are Anyamanning, they are reciprocally related, mutually related, Athipa by presence, which we know already that the 4 khandas are always simultaneously present. So it is Sahajata also. Chattaro Mahabhuta Anyamanning Attipachena Pacheyo. So the 4 Mahabhutas also, that is the earth, air, fire, water, they are also related to each other by reciprocity and also by presence. So if one is present, others will also be present. So they condition each other by presence. The next one, Okanti Khane Namarupam Anyamanning Attipachena Pacheyo. Okanti Khane means at the time of conception, at the time of being born. So at the time of conception, Namarupa are reciprocally related with the presence. They also influence each other as presence, and we know they are also serving in that manner. Chitta Chetsika Dhamma, Chitta Samutthana Rupana, Attipachena Pacheyo. So Chitta and the Chetsika, all these Dhammas, and the Chitta Samutthana Rupana, and the Rupas which arise because of Chitta. We already seen that Chitta gives rise to Rupas. They are again related to each other by Athi condition. Then Mahabhuta Upada Rupanam Attipachena Pacheyo. So these 4 great primary elements, they are, and the rupas which are derived matter which arises from that. So all the matter which we see is derived from 4 primaries, earth, air, fire and water. So they are also related with presence condition. Then Chakkhayatanam, Chakkhu Vinyana Dhatuya, Tan Sampayutta Kanan Dhammanam Attipachena Pacheyo. So Chakkayatana means the eye ear base or the rupa. Chakkhu Vinyana Dhatuya, the arising of Chakkhu Vinyana. Tam Sampayutta Kanan Dhammanam, and all associated dhammas which arise with that Vinyana. Attipachena Pacheyo. They are also related to each other by presence condition. So eye base is related to eye consciousness by present, because if eye base is present, only then eye consciousness will arise. And similarly, all other sense bases, ear, nose, tongue, body and so on, they will also arise because of presence. Then Rupayatanam Chakku Vijnana Dhatuya Tan Sampayutta Kanan Dhammanam Arthipachena Pachayo. So the Rupa means the visible object. It is again the base. Just as the eye base is there, similarly the external Rupa. Ear base is there and the external sound. So that is being pointed out. That visible object base is related to eye consciousness and associated Dhammas by presence. They have to be present at this, for each other to be present. Similarly, the sound base, the odor, taste, tangible object base, they are all related to the corresponding consciousness, ear consciousness and visual consciousness element, and other chetsikas by presence condition. So it's quite easy to see that. Then we have the final part of it. Rupayatanam, Saddhayatanam, Gandhayatanam, Rasayatanam, Potabbayatanam, Manodhatuya, Tan Sampayutta Kanang Dhammanam, Attipachena Pachayo. So all these ayatanas, they serve as presence condition for Manodhatu. Just as there is Manovinyan Dhatu, we remember there is Manodhatu. And what are those Manodhatus? Remember? Panchadvara Avajan, which we had studied in process. Those things which are not directly involved in cognition, but they precede the cognition process. So Panchadvara Avajan is, for example, 5-door sense objective. Then the Sampatichana Chitta, which we had studied, receiving consciousness and the adverting consciousness. They are the Manodhatu. Yam Rupam Nisaya Manodhatuya Cha Manovinyana Dhatuya Cha Vartanti is 96. Tam Rupam Manodhatuya Cha Manovinyana Dhatuya Cha Tam Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam Arthipachena Pachayo. So he says Yam Rupam Nisaya Manodhatu. So depending on this matter, mind element and Manovinyana Dhatu, when the mind consciousness element arise. That matter is related to mind element and consciousness element by presence condition. So this is the various dimensions of presence condition. Sometimes the objects are present simultaneously, they arise. Sometimes they arise earlier because eye base has to be present before seeing can happen. The external object has to be present before seeing can happen. So in that way it is being pointed out. The Nathi is the reverse of it, absence. And in case of absence, there is only one condition, that is the contiguity condition, which you already studied. So the contiguity condition, there is one mental state and then another one arises. So the one which was earlier has to be absent for this to arise. So that is what is meant by absence condition. So it is what is written here. Samanantara niruddha chitta chetsika dhamma pattu upannanam chitta chetsikanam dhammanam natti pachena pachayo. So it says samanantara niruddha chitta chetsika dhamma. So the states of consciousness and chetsik mental factors which have just ceased in the samanantara pachayo, they are related to the present states of consciousness and mental factors by absence, which means the earlier states become absent and the new states arise. So this is what is meant by the absent state. Then next is Vigat Prachayo. Now Vigat Prachayo is disappearance, and Steady Sayadaw says is exactly the same as the presence. Disappearance state is the same thing as the absence one. So if you read it also, the enunciation, it is the same. Just as Nathi Pachya enunciation is Samanantara Niruddhaya Chitta Chetsika Dhamma Pachupannanam Chitta Chetsikanam Dhammanam Nathi Pachyena Pachyo. In Vigat also same thing is there. Samanantara Vigata Chitta Chetsika Dhamma. Only thing is, instead of Athi, it is saying Vigata. Chitta Chetsika Dhamma Panchupannanam Chitta Chetsikanam Dhammanam Vigata Pachyena Pachyo. So states of consciousness and mental factors which have just disappeared in contiguity are related to present state of consciousness by disappearance. So whether you call it disappearance or absence, Lady Sayadaw says they are both the same. So
विगत और वो जो अति बराबर ही है ना फिर तो
नथी नॉट और विगत का उल्टा अगला आया अविगत पच्चय. So अविगत और अथि सेम हो गए. अविगत means non disappearance. So if you read the whole thing, this 99, 100, 101, it is exactly the same thing as the one for athi pacchaya. This is the kind of why is it put then and they are same. There is no explanation given anywhere. So some people say it was made mostly for numerical reasons, that they wanted 24 rather than 21 and therefore they have added these. Some say there is a finer distinction between them, but I couldn't find out anywhere what is the finer distinction between Avigata and Athi or Vigata and Athi? I couldn't find. There's nowhere it is mentioned. Everywhere they quoted Sayadaw to say that they are effectively the same. So this is all these 24 links. It concludes the discussion. Then actually in the Abhidhamma manual, these 24 are not discussed in that manner. They have discussed it in terms of the groups. So what we have done is already discussed them separately, then we can put them all together in groups. So that's what I have just done in the later slides. Just for the sake of completeness, we can see that. We have already studied them. I have just picked up the things from various places and put them together. Because that has its value, and when you summarize it in groups, you can understand what is influencing what. So there is, for example, mind influencing mind. So how is the mind influenced by mind? These are the conditions. Anantara, Samanantara, Nathi, Vigata, Asevana, Sahajata, Anyamanye, Asampoita. So these are the various conditions.
Which page was it?
103. So we have already seen, that mind for mind can be either these simultaneously or later or earlier. So depending on that, there are different mental factors. So the mental factors that immediately sees are a condition for present consciousness and mental factors according to Anantara, Samanantara, Nathi and Vigata, which we just now studied. In Samanantara and Anantarpache also, these Lady Sayadaw says they are almost the same. So the point is being made is that the mental state which gives rise to the next arising immediately after, the previous one has to be absent for the next one to arise. So that is what is meant by Nathi and Vigata. Then on the other hand, there are those jhavanas, if you remember, 7 stages of impulsion where the evaluation and assessment of the object is done. They influence each other by repetition because they're same thing arising again and again. So they become stronger and stronger. Then the Sahajata Pacho mental factors, they influence each other by Sahajata, Anyamanya and Sampayukta because they are associated and they are also reciprocatory influencing each other. For example, the 4 khandas, 4 non-material khandas, Sanya, Vijnana, the Vedana and Sankhara. They influence each other. They are simultaneously arising every time. And so they influence each other. They are Sahajata Pacha. They are also Anyamanya because they influence each other by reciprocity and they are also associated. So all these 3 conditions simultaneously influence. So as we have been saying, these links of course are separate links, but actually the conditioning is done by many links working together because of the basic, that's how the basic study which we have done. There is not one cause for one effect, multiple causes for multiple effects. So that part is brought out in these summaries. So this is how the mind for mind influences. Then how does mind influence mind and matter? So these are the other. There is Hetu Pachya, Jhana Pachya, Marga Pachya for Sahajat mind and matter. That is which arises together. Mind and matter which arises together. Then Sahajat volition also is a condition for that. Then asynchronous volition. Asynchronous meaning which occurs at a later time is a condition for mind matter born of Kamma by way of Kamma condition. Because Kamma can produce the fruit immediately, can also produce after a long time. So that's why there was this Kamma condition. Then mental resultant aggregates are a condition for one another by way of reciprocity, that is Anyamanyam, and Sahajat by way of Vipaka. That is, they can be influence, effect of each other, can be the result of each other. So I'm just summarizing them, whatever we have done earlier. Then how does mind affect matter? It affects it through Pachajata, because mind states which are arising later can influence the matter which arose earlier. I hope you remember. Why? Because matter has a larger time duration, 17 mind movements. So mind movements which can arise even later can influence the matter which arose earlier. So the body arose and the mind state which arose after a few mind movements can also influence the body, rupa which arose earlier. So that is a Pachadata Pachya. Then how does matter influence mind? There is only one way that a matter is a condition for mind, that is through 6 bases. The I base influences mind because it causes the arising of vijnana. So it is all purejata. Similarly, the objects, they also have to be earlier. Objects have to be earlier to influence the mind, whether it is the I base or whether it is the object earlier. So it is always purejata pachya operating when matter influences mind. Then we have concepts influencing mind and matter. So concepts also influence us. It is done through Arambana and Upanishad. Arambana, you remember, is an object. So a concept can be an object. We can think about something as an object conceptually, and that can influence our mind and matter. So that's what is being. It influences as an object. And Upanishad. Upanishad, you remember, is decisive support. So if you think about something and then influence, that concept can become a very strong in our mind and influence us in long periods of time. So Arambana is sixfold, it is visible form, auditory form and so on. And Upanishad is threefold, Arambana Upanishad, Anantara Upanishad and Pakat Upanishad. So we had studied all that in detail. Arambana itself, when prominent, can also become Upanishad. Object is prominent, then also can influence us in a very strong manner. Thought process can influence us in a strong manner. So states of lust and anger, faith, loving kindness, etc., they are experienced in past, and then we remember them later, and then they will say it is Pakat Upanishad. It is influencing is a natural decisive support condition. So that's, I think, the summary of all the Patthana. Now we will study its application in Paticha, which is quite important, of course, but quite tough also. So let's try to see how do you go about it. I'll just go one link at a time. So just summarize the whole 24 links.
So this is Paticha Samutpada in the light of Abhidhamma.
Yeah.
ये सर कहाँ पर है अभिधम्मा की?
उसमें नहीं है, ये विशुद्धि मग्गा में है। कुछ हद तक वहाँ पे भी काफ़ी उसमें दिया हुआ, तो काफ़ी जोर लगाना पड़ता है उसमें डिस्टिल करने के लिए। कुछ एक आध पेपर एक मिला था मुझे, उसमें मिला था मुझे लिखा हुआ थोड़ा बहुत, तो इट्स नॉट वेरी इजीली अवेलेबल।
अच्छा, इस कर्म का कब फल मिलेगा?
ये कुछ नहीं पता चल सकता।
नहीं, कोई भी नहीं बता सकता है। भगवान बुद्ध ने भी
वो बताया था उन्होंने किस कुछ का, बाद में उससे कहा कब तक पूछते रहोगे। आनंद ने पूछना शुरू किया ना, उसने कहा तुम कब तक पूछते रहोगे मुझसे कि ये मरा, ये कब कहाँ पैदा होगा और ये पहले कहाँ था। Enough of it, stop.
अपना ही जैसे कर्म का
हमें नहीं पता,
किसी को नहीं पता कौन सा कर्म का कब फल मिलेगा, 10 साल में मिलेगा।
भगवान ने कहा था ना, कर्म विपाका चिंतय, अगर ये सोचने लगोगे तो यू विल गेट इनटू कंफ्यूजन। इट इज नॉट अ थिंकेबल ऑब्जेक्ट फॉर नॉर्मल ह्यूमन बीइंग्स। फॉर अ सम्यक संबुद्धा यू कैन फिगर आउट, बट नॉट फॉर नॉर्मल। सो पतिच्च समुत्पाद में पढ़ते हैं ना, अविद्या पच्चय संखारा। So what is this pachya? That is what we will now try to figure out based on whatever we have studied. So it becomes a bit complicated, but it has some value in terms of creating the delusions of.
हमने ये भी देखा था कि जो सुत्ता में वर्ड्स के मीनिंग्स होते हैं, जो हमने चीज़ें पढ़ी हैं, और जो अभिधम्मा में है थोड़ी अलग है। धम्मा का मतलब वहाँ अलग है, संज्ञा का मतलब वहाँ अलग है।
ज़्यादा नहीं है, थोड़ा कुछ केस में।
तो पटिच्च समुत्पाद में वी विल नॉट गेट इनटू दिस प्रॉब्लम की सुत्ता में जनरली जिस सेंस में बोला जाता है,
दूसरी सेंस में है एक्चुअली। उसको डिटेल दे दिया गया है कि भाई जब हम कहते हैं अविद्या पच्चय संखारा, तो अविद्या उसका कॉज है क्या? नॉर्मली तो हम जो लॉजिक हम पढ़ते हैं उसमें तो यही कहते हैं कि कॉज इफेक्ट ही मानते हैं, कंडीशनैलिटी की बात समझ में है, व्हिच इज ओनली वन काइंड ऑफ इट, एंड दैट टू नॉट। नॉर्मली हम कहेंगे ए है तो बी होके ही रहेगा, लेकिन यहाँ कहते हैं ए है तो बी हो भी सकता है, नहीं भी हो सकता है, और ए नहीं भी है तब भी हो सकता है। तो अब क्या करना, कौन सा लॉजिक लगाओगे? इट्स ऑल बेसिकली बिकॉज देयर कंडीशनैलिटीज, सो मेनी कंडीशंस conspire together to create set of conditions, so you can't figure out which is the one-to-one correspondence नहीं कर सकते. So that becomes a bit clear in that, and you get an intuitive sense क्या होगा. You can't really get into details of too many, and details is just too many, but intuitively we get a sense, it is not really a cause. because even within sutta, if one is an investigative point of view, तो उसको लगता है, जैसे मुझे लगता था, वो कहते हैं ना वेदना पच्चया तन्हा, अगर वेदना का तन्हा का कॉज है ही है, फिर तो छुटकारा हो ही नहीं सकता,
वेदना तो होती रहेगी,
वेदना तो होती रहेगी। तो वेदना पच्चया है, कंडीशन है, कॉज नहीं है। दूसरी चीजें ऑपरेट कर रही हैं, उसके कारण तन्हा बनेगी, नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ वेदना इटसेल्फ। दैट्स हाउ देयर इज फ्रीडम पॉसिबल, अदरवाइज तो कुछ पॉसिबल ही नहीं होता। अगर ये बिल्कुल लीनियर कॉज इफेक्ट होता, फिर तो फंसे हुए थे हम, तो निकल ही नहीं सकते। सो दैट क्लैरिटी emerges when you study it in that manner. So we'll try to see if I can bring out that clarity. It's quite complex. कोशिश करते हैं। Any questions?
There was one question earlier. Why is Rupa a prerequisite for Manodhatu? Isn't it interrelated and interdependent?
Rupa is a Purejata Pachyo. Means it is to be present before consciousness can arise. I base has to be present before consciousness can arise. It cannot arise simultaneously with it. That is the point being made. Similarly, external sound has to be there before the hearing can take place. According to science also we know that. Object sound होगी तो उसके कुछ मिलीसेकंड बाद हम सुनेंगे, बाद होगा ना, उसके साथ साथ नहीं हो सकता. So we understand that way. So science helps us in understanding, and same thing is true of everything else. When we see something, the only trouble is that the rate of seeing is so fast कि लगता है वो साथ साथ देख रहे हैं, because the velocity of light is huge. और those कल में देख रहा था एस्ट्रोनॉमर्स जो हैं, उनको ये कंफ्यूजन नहीं रहता है, because they see
बहुत दूर होता है.
I was just when I was last night looking at the sky and thought, which is the farthest galaxy? मैंने पढ़ा देखा 13.3 billion light years away. What does it mean?
Sir, if you look at this
13.3 billion light years away, तो उसको तो टाइम का कोई नोशन ही खत्म हो गया. How does he figure out कि वहाँ से कब लाइट है? That is the galaxy which is the youngest one, just formed after Big Bang. ये तुम्हें जानते हो क्या कह रहे हो?
मुझे लगता है somehow there is a missing link there, because I think there has to be this quantum relation to this, which is हम जब entanglement की बात करते हैं तो distance doesn't come into picture. So we could be entangled with that galaxy,
but the light from
at the
there,
same time.
But by parallax they are actually able to measure ना, they are able to measure कि वो गैलेक्सी इतनी दूर है, तो इतनी दूर से इतना समय वहाँ से लाइट सिग्नल को आने में इतना लगेगा, तो वो पच्चीस नहीं हो, वो
बट अगर
साइमल्टेनियस नहीं हो सकता.
नहीं सर, अगर एक आ गया लाइट सिग्नल तो वो those electrons are entangled now.
Maybe.
So with that sense, अगर हम entangled हैं उनसे, तो we can at the same time influence each other.
Maybe. Influence हो सकता है, but the light time तो वही रहेगा ना. They may be influencing us. You never know. After all, जो astrology बनी है वो इसी basis पे बनी है कि we are being influenced by them. I don't know how and what is the theory कोई है नहीं, but that is the way it is. And they make quite interesting and accurate predictions.
There was one more question from Salesh when ma'am was talking about karma. That why does karmas affect at different times? What determines different times?
There's no way, I can't answer that. It's like asking that why does a papaya tree give fruit in 1 year and a mango gives in 10 years, and that one cactus which grows in Manipur in 12 years it gives a flower. No, what do I do? No way. Can't find out. Probably genetics people may have some answer to it. Which gene gets upgraded and which gene gets up.
Genetics people don't believe in karma. That is the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. So somebody has to do research in that. No idea. So the Buddha solved this question very easily. Kamba vipako achintaya. Don't think about such things.
Oh.
It'll drive you crazy.